You're listening to the Staging Sips podcast with Lori Fisher. This podcast is dedicated to helping real estate staging CEOs build healthy businesses that grow, flow, and thrive. Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the podcast. I'm so happy to be with you in this second episode of 2024. You guys, are approaching 10,000 downloads of this podcast. Holy smokes. That's amazing. That means there are so many staging business owners out there that hopefully I am imparting some wisdom to, and hopefully helping your businesses run and operate better, or just for you to know that you're not alone. So that is so cool to me. So I'm really, really excited. So one of the things I would love to ask you to do so that we can get over that 10,000 download mark, but also help a lot of other business owners, is leave a review for me and leave your social media handle so that I can not only read your review, but I can direct other business owners to follow you on Instagram or Facebook or TikTok, wherever you want to be seen and have visibility and growth. Let's help you do that, okay? So take a minute at the end of this podcast, or set a little side of time, leave a little reminder for yourself to come on over and rate with a star and write a little review if the podcast has helped you at all. I would love to be able to do that and share it out on social media so we can help each other build and grow our presence out there online. So before I roll into today's topic, I want to just let you know that inside of the Staging Business School's Accelerate program, which is that accelerating business owner, you are at that point where you're starting to get tapped out and a little burnt out because you are operating, whether it's yourself or just skeleton crew, and you need to grow your team and you need to put systems in place because maybe it's not running so smoothly, or you feel like every time you're recreating the wheel or you're doing things differently every time you have a new client. That's what that Accelerate business owner is about. And that's what the Accelerate track of the Staging Business School is for. We are working for the next month on systems and refining and improving systems and how to get started, how to delegate if you've never delegated before. It's going to be all about that in our twice monthly calls. We'll be working on systems. So if that is something that is something you just need help with and work on, please come and join us inside of the Accelerate program. And you can find out more about the Accelerate program at rethinkHomeInteriors.com/accelerate. And really, this month is so perfect because it's really going to help you achieve whatever goals you are setting for yourself at this time of this recording, 2024, but at any time in your business. And that's what I want to talk to you about today. I actually want to talk to you about goal achievement versus goal setting. There's so much out there in the beginning of the new year and the new quarter about setting goals for ourselves. And we do it inside of the Staging Business School each quarter. We set 90-day goals for our business. So again, if you want that structure and that time to work on your business versus in your business, come in and join us in the Accelerate program if you're in that window of time where you are getting consistent clients, but you are dang stressed out and burnt out, so we can help you become more efficient and grow a team that's efficient for you. But there's so much out there about setting goals at this time of year. And I really wanted to step back and talk about how do you achieve the things that you set your goals for? Because that is actually the harder part, is achieving the goals. So, I'm sure you've all heard about things like SMART goals. So making your goals specific, measurable, attainable, realistic, time-bound. In episode 26 of the Staging Sips podcast, I talk about the Fix-It protocol, which is a great episode to go back for setting your goals, because the Fix-It protocol walks you through how to set goals and identify systems that are broken in your business and how you can go about cleaning those up, which that's a goal, right? So it takes you through fact finding, creating an issues list, crossing off the easiest things that you can achieve quickly, investigating possible solutions for the bigger problems, and then tracking the results once you get there. I also have talked in previous episodes about how you can set goals by evaluating each department of your business and assigning a color code, whether it's red, yellow, or green. Green means it's operating great. Your marketing, your operations, your customer management, if that's working great, it's green. It's not really something you necessarily have to set lofty goals for. But if you're in red and yellow in any one of those departments, then you're going to need to analyze further whether the issue is people, process, or tools. So there's so much out there about how you can set goals. But let's talk about how you achieve them. And more importantly, because I'm a science geek and I'm a neuroscience geek specifically, let's dive into what happens in your brain that helps you attain and achieve your goals. Because after all, we all have a brain that we work with, and we're not special in the world in terms of having goals. Every animal has a goal based on survival. We are just so fortunate as humans because we can actually plan our goals and we can envision goals that haven't even happened yet, that are abstract, and it's so fascinating. So as a result, we can look inside of the brain, and we're so lucky to be able to do that, to see what happens when goals get attained, and then we can kind of do some brain hacking to achieve our goals. So let's dive in a little bit about how we can kind of use the neuroscience to help us set better goals, and then also not use our goals against ourselves, right? So I think that's really important. And let me just step off for a second and talk about that. When we set goals are simply there to direct our minds. And I want you to remember that. If we don't direct our minds toward one or two primary goals, then it's very easy for the business to really run us versus us running our businesses. But here's the thing, in business, we are very often new to this. Many of us have never run a business before, so we often overestimate what we can get accomplished in a year. And as a result, and how long it can actually take to get results. So we can beat ourselves up just simply because we didn't know that. So I want to first say that. So any goal that you're setting for yourself in 2024, if we are here, next year, a year from now in 2025, and you did not achieve that goal, it is not there for you to beat yourself up on. It's simply a measure of how far did you get toward that goal? What lessons did you learn on the way to that? Was there something you needed to adjust? We are never going to use our goals against ourselves, not in the Staging Sips community, not in the Staging Business School community. Not going to happen on my watch, okay? The other thing is, I want you to realize that the reason why we also can't use our goals against ourselves is because goal achievement isn't linear. It can be slow, it can backslide, we might need integration periods where we give ourselves and our teams a break and we just let ourselves really begin to let things seep into the way we do things. We can go backwards because we might head down a path thinking it's the way to get to our goal and realize, oh, no, this isn't the way we do it, or we're doing it too quickly. We need to back off of it. And it can also explode exponentially in the right direction, moving you forward. There's so many variables. And if you think about anything that you've learned, if there's something that you learned over the long term of your life. For me, I was a competitive athlete, and I've had the joy of teaching young children my sport and watching them go from a little 3-year-old learning how to do it all the way up to being in college, and performing at a very high level. And I have gotten to see that their growth comes in spurts, and it comes in not doing well and toiling through it and trying to teach them how to do the sport in multiple different ways. So goal setting for your business and your business growth is just like that. So, okay, that's my little soapbox about not using your goals against yourselves. So let's now dive into the neuroscience of how we might attain our goals a little bit better. And what are some real actionable things you can think about as you think about the goals that you've set and how you're going to achieve them? So there are really 3 main brain areas at work, whether you're working on goal achievement, but I'm going to break one of them up into 2 parts. So 4 main brain areas that work together when you are working on your goal achievement. The first area, which is the amygdala, is the part of your brain that wants to avoid punishment or pain. So this is probably the area of your brain that brings up for you that you need to do something different, that you need to set a goal around it. You're either burnt out, you're frustrated, you're stressed, you feel financial instability, it feels like things are chaotic, it feels like they're confusing, it feels like you're not getting ahead, you're not getting the results you want. It feels like you don't know who's responsible to get something done. Like the amygdala is really what I believe, and this is my own theory on it, what I believe is what causes us to set goals in the first place. It's dissatisfaction with where we are right now. It is feeling, just a complete feeling of dissatisfaction. So that is the first area for your amygdala. So let's think about that. So the brain is going to tell you where things are wrong, where you can set a goal around. The next area, which is called the ventral striatum, and you do not need to learn these terms. I'm just sharing them if you too are a science geek like me. The ventral striatum is about initiating or not initiating action towards a goal. So what does that mean? So if we have a goal of, let's say it is to get fit for summer or something like that, or fit because our jobs demand it, right? As staging business owners, if we are the lead stager in our business, we've got to be fit. So let's just say that's a goal, a personal goal that also impacts our business. The ventral striatum is responsible for initiating you getting out of bed in the morning and exercising if that's what you've committed to. And it is also responsible for you not, eating the extra cookie or drinking the alcohol or whatever, all in the name of achieving your goal. So that is a really important part of your brain because it is the part that can derail you. And it can derail you if you haven't planned strategies for it derailing you and you haven't created an emotional connection to the goal that you want to have. Okay, so that is right there, super, super important. So the next two areas are in your prefrontal cortex. One area of your prefrontal cortex is for planning and execution. So that's when we sit down and we say, okay, the goal for my business is to, let's say the goal for your business is a revenue goal. And what are the steps you are going to take to achieve that revenue goal? And I'll tell you in a minute why a revenue goal is not a great goal to have. But just to use this, because a lot of people do that. They're like, oh, I want to make X amount of dollars in 2024. And then we go about working toward that goal. So the prefrontal cortex, the medial prefrontal cortex, is for planning and execution. It's writing down the goals, and then it is following and making sure that the steps are happening, making sure that that ventral striatum is moving forward and making the right decisions. And I love Jenna Kutcher actually calls the ventral striatum your mac and cheese brain. It's like the one that wants cozy and comfort a lot. And it's the prefrontal cortex that is like the parent in the room. It's like, no, we have decided that this is what we're going to do. This is the plan. Get up, get going, right? So just in a way to think about those two things. And then the next part of your brain is the other part of your prefrontal cortex, which is all about the connection to the emotion. That's your orbital prefrontal cortex. And that is where we assess the value of achieving the goal. Now, this also can come into play with your mac and cheese brain, because if we have not assessed a high enough value at achieving a goal and giving it some emotional context, we are likely to let that mac and cheese brain make the improper decision to act or not act in our best interest in achieving that goal. So this is a really important part of the goal of thinking about how we feel now versus how we'll feel when we meet the goal, right? So like thinking about how do we feel right now with whether it's burnout, frustration, feeling insecure, unstable, all the things that make us initiate a goal in the first place, and how we want to feel or how we think we'll feel when we have met that goal. So going back to my original example of getting fit, it's like I feel tired and sore and like my back kills at the end of a staging day and install day, and I want to feel great. And when I'm fit and everything, I'll be able to move things easier. I'll be able to move easier. I'll be able to get up on a ladder easier. I'll be able to hang the artwork easier. I'll be able to get down on the floor and steam bedding and then be able to get up a lot easier. I'll feel not so tired at the end of a day, right? Like, so that is kind of what happens in that front part of your brain. And when we light up or activate that prefrontal cortex, it helps us stimulate goal achievement when we envision what it will be like to get there. So that's really, really important. But here's why revenue goal is not necessarily a very good goal. When the goal seems too far away, we get far less action in that prefrontal cortex, and thus far less stimulation or envisioning on how to achieve what that goal will likely to be, or what it will be like to achieve it. So if we say, I want to hit X revenue dollars, it's like, especially if you're like wanting to 50% your revenue gain or 100% your revenue gain, it can feel so big and so hard to fathom how you'll achieve it that you won't go after it at all. So it's really, really important. If you have set any goals for your business, and if you've set a revenue goal, let me tell you how you can make it more tangible for yourself. And I'll do that in just a minute. So to succeed in goal setting, and especially stretch goal setting, like a big lofty revenue goal, research states that we'll want to do a few key things. The first is we want to plan to not make that goal, or like, what are the obstacles that will be in our way? So we want to have a backup plan, and maybe a backup plan to the backup plan. And I love the story of, in the 2008 Beijing Olympics, everyone thought that Michael Phelps was going to be, the one to go get gold in every single one of his races. And he had already won 7 gold medals when his next event, the strongest event, could have been his 8th gold medal, and it probably would have been in the bag. However, when he dove into the pool, his goggles filled with water, and he was pretty much blinded. But at that point, he had a backup plan. He started counting his strokes. So he knew how many strokes he needed to get to the other end of the pool, like this fraction of action. So he focused on staying calm, and he counted his strokes to his 8th gold medal. So planning for obstacles at the same time that you're envisioning success boosts your ability to be ready to act if things aren't going well. And when we do our 90-day planning sessions inside of the Staging Business School, we actually have a step where we talk about what are some of the things that might get in my way to achieving this, and how might I get around that. So we actually think about what are the possible things. Like, we talk about, like, I don't feel like doing it, or my team isn't getting it, or like things like that, so that you can begin to plan for a backup plan. I actually have this experience happening right now. I've rolled out a lot of systems and changes and processes in the way we do things in the design department. And I have a team member who is really struggling. And so I have a plan for how I'm going to help that team member catch up to speed with what we are doing. And it's going to come down to fractions of actions, which is step 2. So step 1 is making sure you plan for obstacles as you are going to achieve and execute your goals. The next one is to create your right habits. First of all, setting and sharing intentions make the goal happen. So tell people. First thing is, accountability is huge. Tell people when we make commitments to ourselves and others, we discuss them, we sign off on them, and then we can ask ourselves, what can I do today to get closer to achieving my goal? These are called implementation intentions. So set some implementation intentions. That's a tough couple of words to say together. We want to set some intentions. And I personally like to use a phrase or a mantra, like, how will I move this needle forward this week? And I love the story of the British Olympic rowing team, which hadn't won in, oh my God, so many years, had not won gold. And they just created the mantra, will it make the boat go faster? And every time they had a decision, whether it was placed in front of that ventral striatum, which is the go or no-go part of your brain, the yes, we're going to take action, or no, we're not, they had a mantra that said, will it make the boat go faster? And this is just a reminder. This is your prefrontal cortex being in charge versus that part of your brain that is the mac and cheese looking for the cozy comfort in your life. So this would be for your team, if you've got team, or just for yourself, a really valuable thing to put in front of them, a really good mantra. Will this make the boat go faster? How will I make this, improve this week? So I challenge you to do that for yourself and your teams. That's creating the right habits. And the next thing is creating the right habits, but creating habits that are like fractions of action. So that's step number 3. So you've got plan for obstacles, create the right habits, and then the last thing is move the goal closer. If you or your team are feeling unmotivated because the goal seems too far away or too lofty or too abstract, make the goal smaller, more tangible, fractions of actions. So break it down into a smaller piece. So if, for example, you are struggling with, you feel like you're not able to, like, say your goal is to do one more vacant installation a week, but you're looking at how your team operates right now, and you can get 2 done, and 3 would be a super difficult thing to fit into your schedule because it's taking your team too long to get things done. What are the fractions of actions that you can do to increase efficiencies? So first of all, you want to go through that fix-it protocol and just fact find, where is the time going? What are some of the areas that are taking the longest or the most cumbersome or whatever? You've got to do some fact finding first. And then what you're going to do is create a whole issues list of the things that are possibly going wrong. And then you're going to cross off those things that are the easiest to accomplish. And then you're going to break down the other steps into small little fractions of actions that you can implement. So but in this scenario, you wouldn't necessarily say, okay, right now it's taking us 12 team hours to go from pack and pull to the end of install. You'll look at that and go, okay, you learned that packing and pulling is taking 4 hours, let's say 4 hours, and you want to try to see if you can get that slimmed down to maybe 3 hours or 3.5 hours. What are you doing right now in your pack and pull process that seems to be taking a long time? Is it that your team is spending too much time trying to figure out like the pillow mix or the bedding or, what goes on the surfaces that you're going to style, or you're taking too much time walking back and forth between places? Can you take a fraction of action and go, okay, maybe we don't have our inventory set up in a way that makes it most efficient. Maybe the team has to walk back and forth too far between artwork and pillows, which dictate the color scheme throughout the house. Maybe my team is struggling with understanding how, maybe we can put a system around how to style each coffee table that it involves. It always involves a tray, a tall item, a medium-sized item, and a low item. Boom, that's it. What small step can you take and focus just on that? So for the next 90 days, all we're going to focus on is getting really good at creating our tabletop styling for coffee tables, specifically just coffee tables. And how can we move that boat faster, right? So you want to make it really, really tiny, because moving the goal closer to us helps us to envision it and see ourselves achieving it. Again, kind of going through that neuroscience brain hacking. And just remember that it's got to be very specific and tangible. Like I just said, we're going to focus on styling coffee tables really, really effectively for the next 90 days. So when we are pulling and packing, that we can move the dial and move that needle a little bit faster. And maybe you do it by having a lookbook available for your team. Maybe you do it by creating groupings that you store in your facility, if it makes sense to do that, where you've got, all large items together, all medium items together, all small items together, and trays. And they're kind of in an order where your team grabs a tray, they grab the small, they grab the next medium, and they grab the next large, and it's done all in a row, and it makes it super, super easy to get it done. So you can get creative with it. That's one of the exciting things about owning our own businesses. But with this focus, what happens is we activate that left side of our prefrontal cortex, and the planning and envisioning gets even easier. The smaller we make the goal towards the overall big thing, the easier it gets. So in the example of revenue, when we talk about saying maybe you want to, sell $50,000 more in revenue this year. Well, what is that going to take on a monthly basis, an average monthly basis? What does that look like? And how many services is that? So what does that break down to per week? And then what does that mean in terms of how much networking you might have to do, or marketing, or Instagram posts, or something like that? You want to break it down into its very smallest pieces. So maybe that $50,000, let's say, $52,000, just because that's $1,000 a week more that you want to bring in. How many services is that? Is that one more or two more consultations a week? Maybe you do consultations in addition to vacant staging. Is that 2 of those? Is it 3 paint consultations? Is it 1 more vacant staging? And again, are you at capacity to do that? How can you make that happen? Because you'll evaluate, again, your people, processes, and tools in order to figure out what your goal should be there. So, I feel like I'm so excited to be back. I've blah, 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 blah. But anyway, the bottom line is, when we focus the goal and we use this brain hacking system, we can achieve bigger goals, and we can achieve them faster when we are kind of using this brain science. So make your goals small, achievable, bite-size, create the right habits with a mantra. Will this move the boat forward? Will this move the business forward? Will it not move the business forward? Plan for obstacles. Plan that your brain is going to default to, I don't know what to do to make this goal. I don't know who to reach out to network with. I don't know what to post on Instagram. Plan for those obstacles. They're going to come up. And then, most of all, if you do not achieve the goal, remember that in pursuit of the goal, you're going to achieve so much more than you would have if you never did, because you're directing your brain and your mind towards getting it done. So I hope this wasn't too heady for you, but I think it's really, really important to understand what our brains do in this process. So all of that said, that is your sip for the week. I want to just remind you that the Staging Business School has a new Instagram page. I'd love for you to follow us over there. It's at Staging Business School on Instagram, and leave a review for the podcast, and all of the links to access the Accelerate program to work on your systems are in the show notes. So bye for now. I will see you next week on the Sips. Thank you so much for listening to the Staging Sips podcast. If you love what you've learned here today, please take a minute to rate and review it so more staging business owners can find us. And if you want to learn more about how to market and grow your staging business more strategically, I'd love to see you join us inside of the Rethink You Accelerate mentorship program. It is open enrollment, and you can get more details at rethinkhomeinteriors.com/rethinkyou. Would love to see you inside.